How's it going, guys? Welcome to TheBlueShifting and welcome to, well, this. As you probably know, I've been really sick for a while. We got influenza, it was really nasty, and I'm still kind of kicking the last of it, but we're mostly looking at it at the rearview window. I'm deciding to make content this week and I'm feeling good enough to finally do it. It took forever. I'm so excited to be back, which is why this is very disappointing because one of the first things I did was jump back into Starfield. And I had audio file corruption. I can't explain it. It ended up being a symptomatic thing. It might have been a bad driver. It might have been just a funky crossed wire. Don't really know. All I know is that for an entire day, whenever I used my microphone, it had all these like kind of like a tick, 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 just a constant clicking sound all throughout the whole recording. It wasn't just doing this recording. It was also happening in Discord and anything else I happen to use to try and communicate with people. So yeah, it was a bit of a mess. So we're in this odd place where I recorded an entire session, like 3 hours of gameplay, which obviously you wouldn't see all of anyway, but where do we go now? Like, it's a lot of content and a lot of it was really fun. So I molded things over and I decided we're gonna try things a little different. In fact, I'm gonna do something a little experimental, something I've observed other channels do on for their types of form content that I really appreciate. I think it's really fun to watch, and so I'm gonna emulate it a bit. It's gonna be more of a post-narrative session where I kind of go through and just kind of break things down, try and be witty, try and kind of point out some interesting flaws, but again, I'm also not a comedian, which is usually where that format can really shine, where you can make like very sarcastic, well-timed jokes, you know, with supplementation. And I think if I were, you know, approaching content creation that way, I could do a lot better. So let's reserve a little bit of judgment. I'd love to hear your thoughts about this type of formatting, but at the very least, I'm going to catch you up on what we missed, and hopefully we'll, you know, jump right back into the swing of things soon. I still, so far, prefer the face cam on the video highlights type of content building. But if you think this is a bit more appropriate, if you think I communicate it in a good way, and if you have any criticism or like thoughts about how I do this, maybe how I can improve it, what you like, what you don't like, it'd be meaningful. Because again, a lot of this is experimentation, and it's an opportunity. Like, I could just be a moan, oh no, I lost the video, and re-record and just kind of summarize it all at the beginning, but this is an opportunity for me to stretch my wings and try something out that's a little off the cuff. So let's just jump right in. So we start off like we had last time, going with the corporation. I've been having a lot of fun with this one, and naturally they want us to go and do some more shenanigans. Namely, some stuff around Aquila City, which is nowhere on Neon, so we gotta immediately jump off planet. But that would be boring, so we jump into some side quests, and Neon's definitely got an interesting one. I found that so far, this is the one place where you're walking down the street, it has this whole adventurer, like, you're the main character syndrome, where it's every single person you see, random conversations you overhear, it's like, hey, we need someone to do this, we need someone to do that. Oh, well, guess who happens to be here? Main protagonist. So, we're jumping through the streets, and the first thing we gotta go do is talk to someone in jail.
No. Hey, wait. You were there when those security assholes nabbed me. I've lost my job. I've lost my creds, and if I don't square things with Yannick Legrand, I'll lose everything else. Yannick is expecting a package. A really not so legal package. My crate's on block O2 in Ebside. My authentication code is Alpha 3 Kilo 4.
Of course, we can trust Mr. Mario Mustache there, and, you know, just gonna jump in and take care of all his problems. But, you know, there's always gotta be a catch, right? Catch for this one's a little weird.
You've come to the right place.
But we'll discover that later. Right now we gotta go and buy a shipping crate or a lodging. I don't know. It looks like they took shipping crates, like the kind you see on train cars or in space train cars, and then they turned them into little habitats, which isn't dystopian at all.
And authentication is all green. Look for C153.
Anyway, we gotta go get ourselves access to his, and boom, there's the package. Certainly could have been easier. So we go to donate it to this, you know, Yarnick guy, and, you know, he's just great. Immediately seeing that the flotsam has been cut off now that he's been put in jail, and deciding that we are now his newest employee. We don't really have a problem with that. He promised us some money, so, you know, we gotta go see it through to the end.
Blend needs Aurora, yes? And Aurora is totally illegal outside of the Astro Lounge. And really illegal off-world. Nesher's worthless to me now. Loyal, yes, but he'll be watched from now on. Useless. And my other employee? Ugh, Felix Sadler makes Nesher look like a genius. I think it is time Felix Sadler takes a vacation. Permanent. Off-world. Or maybe he tragically falls into the ocean, I don't care which. But you deal with him, and you become very valuable to Yannick.
So we walk ourselves into this storage container and meet some very lovely fellows who happen to be standing next to a guy who just happens to have a little bit of information.
What? Yannick's firing me? That's what this is? Tell you what. Screw Yannick. I hope the Syndicate string him up and execute the bastard.
Turns out, though, that the hiring policy for our friend Yannick is pretty liberal in a sense that you are only working for as long as he decides you are, which means that it's bad news bears for Felix. But why do we care? We're looking for our payday, not Felix's. We get back to Yannick, and of course he says, well, now we got information, now we know where our source is, which means you gotta go undercover.
What we need is Aurora. And there's only one place to get that. Xenofresh Fisheries. Nesher worked there and had a secret contact. Even secret from me, his good friend, who supplied the Aurora. So it is time for you to become a productive member of society and get a job at Xenofresh.
This is looking pretty good, right? I'll tell you what, it's not gonna go as well as you'd think. In fact, like so much in this game, there's a lot of potential here that just kind of, like a whoopee cushion, falls flat with a little sputter. We meet next with the greatest secretary in the world who makes me want to, end all things and, embrace the darkness that is at the end.
You've come to the right place. Xenofresh is always on the lookout for new faces to add to our family.
And we go and apply for a job randomly, and then we get the job randomly. Because, people could just get hired like that. I mean, technically it happens, but yeah, it's, especially when it comes to this job, I don't understand why they would just give it to somebody. Now, before we go any further, this was my favorite spot. Look at these things. They're amazing. The design for these fish is so cool. It's like someone took a dinosaur, fused it with a fish and then injected some alien xenomorph in there. It looks amazing. And it immediately sparks that imagination where it's just like, what are these things like? What would it be like trying to fish for them? If you could take a submarine, would it go full Subnautica on you and just become this abject, eldritch horror type adventure? That almost sounds worth it. Wouldn't it be cool if we could just have one specialized mission where we jump into a weird submarine and go fishing for this? Oh, baby. That'd be something else. But something tells me that this is about the extent of it. Because, Starfield. It has so much potential. It had so much there. And yet, it just teases us with these fantastic designs that are essentially set pieces as far as I can tell. Maybe I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong. But we walk right past this menagerie of amazingness and go into what is probably the most boring job work I've ever done besides Subway. I used to work at Subway. Actually, it probably was more monotonous than this. So after a minigame where we literally just click and pick up, click, formulate, click, drop off 3 times, we're done. Turned out we're actually making raw Aurora, which is one of the most premier and most trafficked drugs in this game. Neon's supposed to be this very libertarian paradise where you can pretty much do anything and it's still illegal, and yet they just let me walk in day 1 and make it. Which just doesn't make any sense, right? Why would they do that? It just seems so bizarre that you could just walk in and just be trusted to do this. And of course, right away, we immediately are betraying the company and working with this lovely lady who just gives us what we need.
The fact I'm still free means Nesher didn't rat me out to security. Are we back in business? I'll give you the codes to the merchandise. It's up to you to get it and do whatever you do.
We literally worked for 10 minutes clicking buttons in a monotonous way to have a single conversation. And you know what the payoff is? Well, we'll get to it, but I'll tell you, it's probably the most disappointing thing in the episode. So we go to report back, and not only is things looking a little tense back with Yark, but he's being beset by Mr. Bayou himself, apparently the guru, the mafia boss, the Yakuza general of this entire city, just casually standing in here ready to intercept our tiny little drug run. Almost like we're special in some way.
What's the percentage in letting either of you leave here alive? You fucking ripped me off, Yannick. I hate being ripped off.
Your lounge has the upscale market covered, Mr. Bayou. But there are so many credits lying on the table, begging to be taken.
Muzzle it. Here's the deal. You get to keep smuggling Aurora out of the fishery. You make your blend and sell whatever extra Aurora you want on the streets. But I'm taking 20% of the profit for having to deal with your bullshit. We're done. Yannick, get busy making me my money.
But, he's not actually interested in doing anything. He's just putting pressure and wanting a cut of the deal, which, makes sense, I guess. Yarg is so overwhelmed with gratitude that we were immediately gutted like the fish we saw earlier, right on the floor, that he tells me to, just go and work when you feel like it. Want to take a day off? Go take a day off. It's literally just, you can leave and never have to come back. And I don't understand why anyone would actually activate this gameplay loop, even if it made you super rich in the game, which it won't. You make so much more money just running around and picking up stuff from random spacers and random captured bases. Easily make 50 times more money than you'd make doing this job. And it's just there. Again, it's one of those really dumb things where I feel like there was a seed of a good idea that just falls flat. I was hoping to get into this deal where we would orchestrate this, where other people are going to be manufacturing, and then I could make these specific drug run missions. That's what I was looking forward to. Smuggling, evading, and, making big bank, and coming back and seeing some of the infighting drama. That would have been really cool. But it seems to just be regulated to a little side quest. Speaking of side quests, having been burned out, we're going to jump into the side quest that is actually a main quest of the main campaign for the company. We're going to go to Aquila City. We're going to actually go and figure out what exactly it wants to do. Corporate espionage, of course. We're simply going to plant some incriminating evidence. Well, that was easy. Really, easy. Too easy. 2 Novice Locks, and that's the whole mission. 2 Novice Locks, and happen to have a spaceship that you're given at the beginning of the game. So, yeah, really feel super high up in this really espionage tree of awesomeness. I spent a ton of time wandering around trying to find something remotely interesting to do. Didn't really find anything there. So, yeah, we move on. Naturally, I decided to bank on doing something a little bit more entertaining, and something I always have found to be in enjoyment supply is collecting debts, because there's nothing better than running around working for Galbank, who I'm absolutely going to steal everything I can from. Anyway, we go fly around, land on this planet, and wouldn't you know it, my superpower of being Crimson Fleet makes it so this mission is laughably ridiculous. We walk onto base, we walk inside, we walk past literal dozens of mechs and troops and defenses that are just happy to just let us by and salute us until we have this amazing interaction.
Haven't you had enough? Do your worst. Haven't you figured it out? You'll get nothing from me. You're just gonna have to kill me, asshole. I never, ever thought I'd be this happy to meet a bank officer. Happily, eagerly. I could kiss you. I'll make my way out of here in case any reinforcements arrive. Thank you.
After we valiantly saved her from the pirates who were not actually fighting her at all, and who let her walk off the base after that, apparently, we get right back to the rigmarole. We're going to report that our valiant efforts to go and put some incriminating evidence on a planet far away behind 2 Novice Locks has paid off in full.
Now, I think it's time to examine a different set of skills. Your next assignment is to find the security chief and use some creative thinking to obtain their security keycard. And when I say creative, I don't mean with a weapon. Either look the part and be persuasive, or be quick with your hands.
So clearly now our next mission is to go and get ourselves a kind of security access. Oh, that sounds very interesting. This idea of a little spoof, and it even gives us the tantalizing idea of dressing up either as a businessman or as a security guard to be able to help, make it possible for us to get this pass. Sounds fantastic. And we have to get the pass from a specific place on a planet that we've never been to. Oh, that'll be just nice and delicious. So we land and we look around this interesting city, and it's like the planet's like super, super hot. They describe how the surface can be super deadly, so that's why they live inside these canyons, because it's relatively chillier, which makes it hospitable, if rough, to live on. And you find out all this backstory about how they used to make mech parts here, but then after the last war, when mechs were just, made legalized, this whole place's economy just collapsed because they were a military construct company that had no contracts anymore. And so now they're just desperately trying to figure out why people should still live here. You'd think they'd just leave, but it's okay. It makes sense, and it feels a lot like real life problems, so that's fine. But then begins the longest, most drawn out, most draining quest in the playthrough. To date, because I was determined. I was obsessed with the idea of getting the optional content. I wanted to dress up. And wouldn't you know it, it was next to impossible, because I couldn't find anywhere to find a suit. I figured, they have security guards here. Why don't I just go and find some of their stuff and put it on their clothes? But apparently on this planet, they don't have housing. The housing that you can access is 3, one of which looks like a place you can buy, and another one is locked behind a quest item. So there was only one apartment to visit, and it wasn't a security place. It seems to me like all these people who are complaining about living here don't actually live here. They somehow are mole people who just live inside cave hollows on the sides of the cliff, because I don't know where the heck they're supposed to be staying. After way too much time, I finally read a little clip online that gave an idea saying that an easy place to go find a security guard is back in the well in New Atlantis. So you go, I visit, open one security locker, boom, there's the outfit. Go right back and have this lovely conversation.
I don't think there's a shift change going on right now. You looking for something? That is a pretty huge favor, especially coming from someone I don't even know. That's okay. I hope you know that I'm not trying to be difficult either. Fine, the key's yours. Just remember to bring it back, or I'm reporting you.
I was not lost though, because while I was there, I happened to unlock a little chest that had a bunch of illegal merchandise inside it. So I got to do my own fun smuggling run, where I just packed all of this stolen, ill-gotten gains into my ship, flew off to the key, sold it all, made a massive profit, and had no issues whatsoever. Literally, no issues whatsoever. It was incredibly boring, but that's okay. In this case, it was of my own doing, and I'm quite fond of the fact that I managed to do it without having any problems. So, keycard in hand, we go back, and I'm excited for part 2, where we get to take this keycard to access some kind of facility where we're not supposed to be able to get into and be able to plant files, to steal information, and get out without anyone noticing us.
Hey there. Got that keycard for me? Overall, not bad for a novice. I think you're ready to kick things up a notch.
Wait, they just wanted the keycard. No explanation? No interesting part 2? That's just it. That was the mission. If they don't circle back to this, I'm just flabbergasted. We're talking about the same game development team that had the most amazing subterfuge mission ever made in Oblivion, in the Dark Brotherhood quest line. You get to go into the murder mansion, a mansion full of people that somebody wants eliminated. And while they're there looking for the hidden treasure, you get to go and destroy them one by one. But you get bonuses if you can eliminate each person individually without being caught or called out as being the murderer. Essentially, you're playing reverse Clue, where you're the murderer and you try and take everyone out in these stylishly hilarious ways. And it's the best mission ever played. I was hoping that we might have a glimmer of that. The idea of being able to sneak into a location and have like multiple routes and avenues you could go about to try and get some kind of heist going of information or planting information in certain mines. We kind of got to see that before a little bit. And yet it was just a fetch quest. I went and got a suit for literally no reason. I could have just talked to the guy and made this entire quest line take 5 minutes. I made the quest more complicated because I assumed that there'd be a lot more to it. Foolish me. But I still have hope. And that means that we're not quite done yet.
Our techs failed to uncover a potential deal between Infinity Ltd. And Quantum Synergies. Your job is to make sure that deal fails. You'll be speaking with Quantum Synergies Executive Director Zola Adisa and their financial manager Arthur Cruz. I'll be giving you a dossier on both. I strongly suggest you read them for talking points. The Infinity Ltd. Rep is Nina Hart. I'll also be giving you an altered version of her presentation to swap out with the original. We've changed several figures, just enough to cause sufficient confusion throughout their meeting.
Now this is starting to seem more like it. This idea of like, we gotta go and mess up a business deal, which means we have to go and influence the various people. You're given dossiers of little breakdowns of their personality. Look at these things. Arthur Cruz, he's charismatic, he's stickler for facts, driven by credits, and financial security is everything. Oh, that means that we can just tackle this idea and these talking points about how Ryujin's profits are higher. Infinity's kind of like a subpar, like Wish.com version. Oh, that sounds like a really fun way to go about having a conversation, using political intrigue, being able to talk our way through an actual argument. And then Zola Adisia, being able, same thing, she's narcissistic, she appreciates professionality, and yet she's worried about being on the cutting edge, and so you go and talk about how Infinity's just kind of like a cheap knockoff version. Again, taking the Wish.com analogy forward, but also focusing on this idea of like improper leadership and how they're not really going to be able to do much in innovation spaces, which is what she's really interested in. And then to cap it all off, we go and we make a flawed presentation with the data that's not necessarily wrong, but it's going to be misorganized and it's going to be misconstrued and inaccurate, so that the presenter is going to be left a little baffled, stumbling with their words, looking incompetent. And on top of seeding this information, cuckoo cuckoo, you have yourself a broken business deal. It's actually a brilliant concept and kind of terrifying because I'm sure it actually happens in real life. This will obviously be really, really fun. We would go into this interesting nightclub that's really got a bumping beat, like way overly loud and horrifically claustrophobic. Everything I hate about clubs. So anyway, we go inside and we actually have some really interesting dynamic conversations. Things go really smoothly. Actually, they go too smoothly.
Someone came dressed to impress. Here on business or just out to escape? Ryujin Industries. A good guess since we are here in Neon, but no. Infinity Ltd. Risky, you say? By all means, enlighten me.
You see, the dossiers, they had all that information. But by reading it, all it means is that when you go to persuade them, you get this top icon that's highlighted with the blue band instead of the green, yellow, or red, which usually denotes an easy persuasion point, a medium, and a hard one. The blue one is a plot point, which essentially means you immediately win the argument in the persuasion tree because you read the dossier as a character. Really, game? Really? It's holding my hand so hard right now. It doesn't reward the player from reading the dossier like it should. It simply says you clicked on the dossier, your character immediately knows how to say the right thing at the right time, and you instantly win the checks. It shouldn't have done that. Maybe this is just my elitist opinion here, but hear me out. The dossier was an optional choice. Part of what should have made it optional is the fact that if you as a player read it and kind of incorporated what it was trying to say, it would then guide you on the points in the dialogue tree for persuasion that were going to have the most effect. Not highlighting it as the one that's like the easy pass button, but instead should have guided you towards which options you chose on the typical tree of green, yellow, red. That way you would be more likely to succeed and have a hidden like sub-check where it would reward the player for reading and retaining the information they read on a tiny document sheet that if you could just remember 3 bits of information, you could immediately pass this check with just a little bit of skullduggery, or you could ignore the document and just brute force your way and hope you make it. Ugh, I can't believe that they're dropping the ball. They really had a good thing going here. And man, This episode's really coming across like a bit of a downer, isn't it? Oh well, we sneak in, switch out the presentation, and head right back and report our findings.
Well, that wasn't too bad, was it? Overall, not bad for your first high-profile assignment. You even earned yourself a bonus, which Lyndon was more than happy to give. We've got a decent backlog of assignments, and they just keep coming, so I hope you're still good to go.
Well, I've been disappointed up till now. Maybe something new is on the corner for the next mission.
Your next assignment is to remind the competitor of their place in the corporate food chain. Some call it retaliation, but we like to think of it as tough love.
So now it's industrial sabotage. Genuine this time. It sounds like it's actually going to be a lot more aggressive. Literally. All right. We'll see. I think the combat has been one of the most appealing parts of Starfield so far, so maybe this one will play out better. They can do a lot more than just make it a run and gun. They could add some espionage, give you some more options besides the two options that are usually displayed, which is the just run in, don't die, or try and sneak around, but have a hard time accessing the sneaking until after you've already started the combat, so that's questionable at best. But maybe it's not completely falling apart. Maybe there's hope still. Maybe the best missions are ahead, and these first few are just kind of a grind to get you ready for what's to come. We can dream. We can hope. But before we round things off, we're going to go back and fulfill a quick, simple task. A few parts ago, we talked to Vladimir, and he gave us some of these chain quests that brought us into line with some of the new artifacts we just picked up. About time we tell him how that actually went. I'm sure he's got some other settlement that needs our help.
Now that those artifacts aren't just blips of hope in the Blackest Sea, I found an interesting pattern. The grav anomaly generated by one of those artifacts, it matches one on another planet. A bigger one. Going to send you the mark close as I can, but I'm having trouble pinpointing the source. You'll need to explore the area on foot. Put your scanner to work. Don't know what you'll find. Keep your eyes open. And from there, maybe you catch a smile and uncover the source of it all.
And that was where we ended. So, yeah. Disappointing is kind of the name of the game today. The level designs are just either horrifically simplistic, or they really try for something cool, but then undercut it, I don't know, maybe to try and make it accessible. It's weird. A lot of the games I grew up loving, especially in Bethesda's catalog, Morrowind and Oblivion, didn't make things so simple or straightforward. Sure, you could just blunder your way through a lot of those quest lines, especially in Oblivion when they started, using quest markers. It really wasn't that hard. Get quest, click quest, go follow a marker, do what you need to do. Morrowind really just made it difficult. But, they were working with what they had. Yet, I look much more fondly on Morrowind and even Oblivion because it didn't make it feel like it was questioning my intelligence and capabilities of person and player. Again, I understand you want to make it accessible. You want to make it so that even someone who's never played a video game before could pick up Starfield and probably enjoy themselves. But I don't know. I expected that it would do something as like letting me read bonus content and apply that in my own way to the game. It just feels a little off. A little cheap. And so while I'm having fun with the game, it doesn't really sound like it when I'm just summarizing, does it? Maybe this is another reason why this format isn't great for Starfield. Without being really clever with jokes, I just don't know if I can make it more than just a kind of ramble about the potential the Starfield has and how it keeps falling short. I still think they had something good going here. The ambition and the idea of a open exploration type of galaxy, I think has really paid off. I do think there's a lot to be satisfied with. But when Bethesda games have always been described as being large, shallow pools, this is the largest and clearly the shallowest. I feel like you could train a bot to play this game. It's so formulaic, and the sparks of creativity that you can clearly see were then undercut by implementation. It almost feels like the writing team and the design team never talked to each other. And the design team's directive was to make it as straightforward as possible. No nuance, no hidden objectives, no secret alternate resolutions. You're told exactly how to solve a problem, and you solve the problem. I don't know. I've also been spoiled by, I think, games like Baldur's Gate 3, which show that there still are creative and dynamic ways to make games and people who are capable of doing that. If you've never played Baldur's Gate 3, I will say this. Even if you've no idea about the mechanics, and it's going to be a pain to learn, that's for sure. It's going to be challenging. Because even in basic mode, it's not meant to be easy. But the more I dig into it, and the more you pay attention, you can solve a lot of quests on just follow the marker and go. But if you actually read between the lines, if you do a little bit of homework, if you listen to what characters say and act on the little things they mention in their dialogues, you actually can unlock in completely new ways to solve problems that aren't apparent. You can bring there's a mission I had where I was fighting a hag, and there was a book that was referenced in the plot inside a letter that you could pick up on a desk, and it made it clear that the hag wanted a particular book destroyed. So I went out of my way to find said book, and when you read it, it talks about a potion called Hag's Bane, which makes them weaker. I'm not going to say specifically why, because I don't want to spoil it. I really want you to play the game. But they did have they had a concoction you could craft called Hag's Bane to use against it in a tough fight to gain an edge. But it also didn't just give you the potion or send you to somebody who could give it to you. It just told you how to make it. And if you were clever and paid attention, the ingredient you needed wasn't too far off. But again, you had to look for it. You had to even recognize when you had it, and then you could make it. So that when you go into that fight, you throw the potion, and it immediately gives you an edge in a fight that's very difficult. And none of it was written out. None of it was spelled out. None of it was even in the links of the quest line. It didn't say it in the quest description and had no indicators or no waypoints to tell you to go get that. It was simply something that rewarded the player for paying attention. You could finish the mission and beat that fight without doing it. Absolutely. But it would be a lot harder. And it also helps to go into that fight knowing what hags are like, knowing the way that they go about things, the types of tricks they might throw your way. And it just gives you more of an edge to take care of things. And that's just beautiful. So to go from a game that rewarded me for being thorough, paying attention, to go to Starfield, where it feels like it's asking me to put the square peg in the square hole, and it's the only available hole there is, I don't feel that rewarded for accomplishing that task. So anyway, I had a lot of fun with this episode. I think in the summary, it comes across a lot more disappointed, which is part of why it might be better to do the gameplays normally, because it kind of filters out some of that disappointment that comes up, because I can just enjoy the moments and share those moments. That's the downside. The moments when I was in the pirate base and I found the CEO that I was collecting the bounty, the making the collections from, that was genuinely hilarious. I was cracking up. I'm just having a blast. And that's a moment that I'm sad I don't get to share with you in its full glory, just because it was a great moment to be there with. I think it would have been a fun time to share. But on the other hand, looking at it like this really kind of opens my eyes to just what it is about this game that people found so disappointing. It's not that it's not got good stuff. It's just that it really treats us all like we're barely functioning toddlers rather than thinking gamers. Rather than thinking, adults, young adults. I think even kids could play this game and it would just go, it's not going to leave an impression because it doesn't let us have an opportunity to discover something new. And we're never going to like watch a playthrough of this game and really feel like, oh my gosh, like that person found something I've never found before. Like, even Skyrim did a better job of that. And it still was pretty handholdy. Anyway, I do enjoy Starfield, and I do look forward to continue to play this, but I also said at the end of this episode, and I'm going to kind of say it again here, I have decided I don't want this series going forever. I enjoy the random side quests I find, and I'm going to keep doing them, but I'm going to pour a lot of my energy into 3 paths. The paths I found the most engaging. So I want to do this corporation chain. I want to see it through to the end. And then I want to do Crimson Fleet. See it through to the end. The whole time, I'm going to be dabbling in the main quests. In fact, next episode, we're going to start with one of those. I want to pick one of the 2 that's there and kind of hit the main plot. But, I want it to be irregular, just kind of sprinkled in while I'm doing the corporation and the Crimson Fleet. And then when I finish those 2, I'll probably just focus in on the main quest line and kind of get through to the end. Plus the side quests to catch my eye along the way, but I'm not going to do the Rangers. I'm not going to focus on systems defense. I think I want to just figure out where the journey goes, and then, we'll have other games we get to play. I want to see this through. I really do enjoy it, but I'm not planning on making 200 parts of this. It has not earned enough respect from me to be able to pull a Muv-Luv on this series. If you don't know, Muv-Luv is probably one of the greatest games, probably the greatest game I've ever played. It's a visual novel, which might not be to your liking, but I'll tell you, it's the greatest piece of media and storytelling and character development that I've ever had the pleasure of reading. I'm a fan of things like Brandon Sanderson, Lord of the Rings, and honestly, Muv-Luv leaves them all in the dust. And that's crazy because it's true. And if you go and start watching that playthrough, if you're like me, you'll be kind of flummoxed. How could I say that when you see that? But the beginning is like the weakest part by far. It's actually kind of a big gotcha. The whole idea of the first narrative, which is good, has fantastic characterization, but the whole first third, like it's a book of its own. But it's like, so if you imagine a book series, it goes 1, 2, 3. It's like Fellowship, Two Towers, Return of the King for Lord of the Rings. It goes Muv-Luv Extra, Muv-Luv Unlimited, Muv-Luv Alternative. Same thing, boom, boom, boom. 3 separate stories, but they're all tied and part of the same journey. And the setup of part 1 makes the payoff of 2 incredible. And then the 2 parts leading to Alternative literally melts your brain with how powerful a writing medium can be when someone who knows their craft so perfectly and understands whom they're making their games for, what they can pull off when they know what they're doing, and how they can take 150 hours of my life to play these 3 games and to have it be some of the best hours I've ever spent doing anything because of how impactful it's been on my life. So, if you want a good story, check out the Muv-Luv series. If you want more gameplay that's maybe a little more engaging and fun, go play. I did a Yakuza 0 playthrough recently. That was really, really fun. I'm planning to do more Yakuza in the future, so do that. And if you're a classics kind of person, I also have been doing an active playthrough of Legend of Heroes Trails in the Sky, which has knocked my socks off with how much fun and interesting content there is. And there's another game that doesn't treat you like a baby. It really makes you work. It makes you work hard. You can easily miss content. It's not necessary to beat the game, but man, do you feel bad if you miss it. So yeah, there's a lot of great games out there to play, a lot of really good things to do, and a lot of it's being covered on my channel. So I hope you'll stick around and watch that. But anyway, please give me some feedback on this episode. Definitely a long-winded outro here, but I got my rambling. I'd love to know what you thought about it, especially because it's so different. And then next week, we'll probably be back to the original. Unless you guys really love this type of style, and then maybe we'll do this again. So yeah, I don't know. Do you want this cushy, like, post-mortem type of talk where we kind of break it down? I kind of just show like these bare snippets of the gameplay to kind of, and then filter through with like my comments along the way. Or do you like the traditional gameplay that I've been doing before? So I look forward to reading your comments on this one. Just a nice little experiment to make the best of a bad situation. And that's kind of what we're here for. So thank you so much. I hope you have a great day. Hope you have a great day. Hope you have a wonderful time watching this series. And also, thank you so much for your support. Watching this, likes, subscribes, all those, of course, are super meaningful and they're free. Or you can support me directly. Thank you to the patrons and members who've gone out of their way to try and help bolster the dream of this channel, to give me resources that I put directly back into the content. It's part of why I can be so experimental with this. It's part of what makes it possible for me to branch out and to do the content on 5 days a week rather than the 3 I was doing for several years. It means we get to share a lot more fun together. So I really appreciate you believing in me and so supporting this dream, and hopefully we can continue to make it grow better, stronger, and more exciting than ever. I hope you have a great day, and until next video watching me, I'll see you next. I'll see you there.